Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our ASO at Home Brass Behind the Scenes. I know I'm a new face for a lot of you. My name is Amanda Vollrath, and I am the Development and Patron Relations Specialist here with the Asheville Symphony. Darko may be joining with us a little bit later this morning, but he is catching a flight. So I will be hosting this morning along with Mark Clodfelter, which we have on the screen today. Just a quick few housekeeping things as we get going for those of you that have not joined us before. We're going to start with a few questions to our brass players this morning, and then as the conversation goes, please feel free to pose your own questions that you would like to ask any one of the specific musicians, or you just want to ask to the group. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. Please click that at any time and just type in your question, and as we have time this morning, we will ask our musicians. So, welcome everybody. Thank you again for joining. Let's see, we've got 30 people on, so let's go ahead and get started. So if we could just go ahead around the Zoom room and introduce ourselves, what instrument we play, how long we've been with the Asheville Symphony, what you all do outside of playing with the orchestra. I know many of you have several different endeavors, and just a little bit of kind of about what you've been doing during this interesting time. So let's start with you, Bethany.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's really nice to see you all. My name is Bethany Wiese, and I am the principal tuba player of the Asheville Symphony. I have been principal tuba player of the Asheville Symphony now for, I think, 2 years. Maybe one, I'm not sure. Before that, I played as a substitute musician for several years. During the day, I teach tuba and euphonium, which is a smaller tuba, at Appalachian State University up in Boone. And we are 9 weeks into classes, and things are going strong over here. I guess a little bit about my background. I started playing the tuba a while ago. Let's say that, a while ago, and I went to school in Wisconsin, and then I got a master's at Yale, and did my doctorate at Northwestern, and from there I ended up in an orchestral program called the New World Symphony in Florida, and from there I got this teaching job. This is my first teaching job. And it's been a real learning experience.
Well, I gotta ask, how do you like the weather of the Appalachian Mountains compared to Florida?
Well, it's fantastic. You all should see the mountains. Well, if you're tuning in from Asheville, I'm sure you have seen the mountains. It's gorgeous right now. Mm-hmm. It is like the perfect weather. The leaves are changing. The Blue Ridge Parkway, I think, looks amazing. And from the number of Floridians up here right now, I would say they agree as well. So I really love it. I really, really love it. So yeah, anyways, I've been keeping busy. Like I said, I teach full-time here. We are halfway in person, halfway online, and spending a lot of time just trying to figure out this new sort of digital environment we live in. So it's been interesting both as a performer and an educator to experience that. So.
Well, thanks, Bethany. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more, just the landscape of teaching during this time,
Sure.
Specifically music. So next, let's go to Jeremy.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jeremy Marks. I'm your bass trombonist in the Asheville Symphony Orchestra. And this would be my second year playing with Asheville if we were starting the season right now. I started last year and been really enjoying it. When I'm not playing with Asheville, I teach trombone at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. This is my third year in Charlotte, and I've been really enjoying it. And this is my third college teaching job that I've had. I used to live in Louisiana and teach at the University of Louisiana at Monroe for a couple of years. And then before that, I taught in Oklahoma at Southeastern Oklahoma State University for a couple of years after I graduated with my doctorate. I went to school at Bowling Green State University. I'm originally from Ohio, so it's kind of up we're in the northwest corner of Ohio. Went to school there for my undergrad, then went to Western Michigan University, which is way over here, if you're familiar with the mitten for Michigan, and in Kalamazoo, and did my master's there. And then I went down to the University of Texas in Austin for my doctorate. So we are in our 7th week of classes right now at UNC Charlotte. We delayed our start, and 90% of what we've been doing has been online, including lessons and things like that. Everything's been on Zoom. So being very familiar with this new platform and delivering teaching and playing and things like that. So yeah, and to keep myself busy, I've been just getting more involved with social media and letting people know what we're doing at UNC Charlotte, what I'm up to. So if you want to catch any of that kind of stuff on any of the social media platforms, just look up my name. You might find me somewhere. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jeremy. All right. Next, we've got Mark Clodfelter.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm Mark Clodfelter, and I'm the principal trumpet of the Asheville Symphony. This year marks my 34th season of involvement with the Asheville Symphony, which of course means I began when I was 2 years old. And not really, I was actually 20 years old when I started playing with the Asheville Symphony. So it's been a minute, and it's been a wonderful and formative part of my musical life. And throughout a lot of different shifting things going on within my career, I've been able to maintain that relationship through the generosity of the Asheville Symphony. I've during that time taught at Mars Hill College, and then at the University of Kentucky, and then back to North Carolina for 7 years at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And now I'm at the University of Delaware, where I'm the professor of trumpet, but I also serve as the director of the School of Music. And so there have been a lot of different things. And that one point of continuity in my musical life and career development has been a home base in Asheville, but that I definitely consider to be my second home. So it's wonderful to join you today. That is sort of the story of my career, really. When I did my undergraduate degree and grad degree, I got out of school, started playing full time, really making a living as a trumpet player in orchestras and chamber ensembles. Eventually found my way also into academia, which offers a dual career for us as musicians. We're privileged to work with brilliant and talented students and share the things we love, while also pursuing our artistic outlets very much in a global way. You know, music is a global community, and so we're privileged to have the opportunity to share what we do with people all around the world, have culturally immersive experiences in communities of diverse ranges of music and expression. And I think that it's enriching to all of our lives. And what we hope to do is bring that back to our community here in Asheville and share it with you from the stage.
Wonderful. Wow, 34 years. That is, we'll get back to that one. I've got some questions for you, and I'm sure our audience would like to hear that. And then last, we've got Donnie.
Hi, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry. It wasn't lighting up. Just wanted to make sure before I kept talking.
You're fine.
My name's Donnie McEwan. I've been playing extra trumpet with the Asheville Symphony for 5 years. I'm from Winston-Salem. I went to the Oberlin Conservatory and then the San Francisco Conservatory for a little while. Then I got my master's degree from UNC Greensboro, and I'm currently ABD with the doctorate at which means I've done everything but the dissertation for that degree. I am a freelance player all around the North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina area. I play extra trumpet, on a substitute basis with most of the professional orchestras in the area, and I'm also in the 208th Army Band.
Awesome.
That's about it.
Yeah, thanks. Well, thanks for everybody for introducing yourself and giving all that information. That was a ton. So I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'm going to throw it over to you, Mark, to kind of go deeper into the questions about what it's like to be in the brass section. But just kind of give a brief overview of just, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities that you're seeing given this, I like to call it interesting times that we're all having to adjust to, but very specifically as it pertains to being a musician, being an educator. Kind of where do you see those challenges? Where do you see those opportunities? Are you excited about anything? Are you bummed about anything? So Yeah, who wants to go first? I'm gonna call on somebody. We'll start with Jeremy.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, the challenges are, from a teaching perspective, because I think all of us teach in some capacity at the university level or private lessons. I think the unique problem that we have is to get nuance out of what we hear from people we listen to, like having really good, microphones, for instance, and cameras and fast internet and all those things are great. But I found that being able to really identify nuance in the way that students perform, that anyone performs on their instrument, and being able to give constructive feedback that addresses those types of things is a struggle. That's hard to do. At first there's a bit of that learning curve of technology as well, of how do we use Zoom? How do we set up our microphone? How do we, what is the right kind of lighting? Which I apologize, I realize I probably look really dark on the screen. But this is the room I have in my house to be able to teach in. But, there's all those types of things that it's like, boy, we kind of take it for granted in a way, when we're in person, that we can experience all those kinds of things. And now that we're being forced to do things with technology and online, there's a bit of a learning curve in trying to still be effective teachers and yet feel like we're accomplishing things at the same time as a teacher and as the student or whoever it is that's performing on the other side, that we're really communicating our art form.
I feel like it's already a challenge. I shouldn't say challenge, but a skill that a teacher really has to have is how to engage your students. And there's just kind of that whole added element of how do you engage a student when you're not with them physically. So yeah.
I mean, right now, just personally with my students, when we were in person, I tried to give a healthy diet of things for them to be working on, their fundamentals, which are, working on good breathing, making a good sound, working on articulation and response and projection and all those kinds of things, etudes, scales, of course, whatever literature they're working on, whether it's in ensembles, a solo, chamber music, what have you. And I found that since we've been online back in March, that I've dialed down the quantity of things and have been really trying to ramp up the quality as best that we can, especially with time and all of us trying to juggle all these different things that are going on right now with being online and remembering things that are virtual and things like that. That's just personally, I've been trying to help with the quality as best as I can versus the quantity of literature and things that we're working on, and really trying to give them something to sink their teeth into when things feel like, we're just being pulled in all different directions, trying to juggle this new virtual world that we're a part of. So
interesting.
Jeremy, I agree with you on all of those points. And an interesting spinoff of this as well has been our immediate integration of 21st century skills and the necessity to really focus on the development of 21st century skills in our students. As we begin to emerge from this event, we're going to see an occupational outlook that is completely different and that has forced us to evolve probably a decade in about 6 months. I mean, the trends were already there. If you look at the trends in the dissemination of music, it's mostly electronic. There's a little bit of looking back over our shoulder now and embracing vinyl, which quite frankly, as a dinosaur, I'm happy to see because I love vinyl. But all of the electronic dissemination of music is already in place. Now, we don't have a choice. We're actually having to collaborate that way as well. And it's an interesting thing when our ability to collaborate is distilled down to how much bandwidth we have and whether or not we're recording into a microphone or a telephone. And it's really, really interesting because it sort of separates our ability just in terms of our quality, as you're saying. Now, one of the things I have noticed that's positive about this, I'm having my students record themselves an awful lot because one of their assignments each week is the submission of a recording that I assign. And the reason for that is because it takes away the broadband and the gear. It takes that out. And so there's no video latency and there's no breaking up of the sound. So at least one of the things we do is to go through this recording and to talk about what they captured. In capturing the recording, you'd be amazed at how someone gets incredibly personally involved with the way they sound. Their self-diagnostic ability becomes very amplified because they know that whatever they send to me, they're going to have to live with. And it's like looking in a magnified musical mirror and trying to fix all the flaws. So this part of it I see as a plus, but the lack of interpersonal interaction is definitely, it has a deleterious effect on many things, including just quite simply morale. So yeah, a lot of, it's huge, it's multifaceted, but I think it calls on us to focus on the development of 21st century skills in our students as they apply towards what is going to become the new occupation in the wake of all this.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a really big conversation, is what does life look for musicians and for symphonies and orchestras and even broader ballets and operas after this. So Bethany, what do you have to say about that? I know you're up at Upstate.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say we have some questions in the Q&A, and I discovered how to use it. So we'll get
Okay.
Never used Q&A, sorry. I can absolutely echo what my colleagues have said. There are certainly a lot of challenges, and a lot of challenges that are particularly magnified for students, who may be lacking the means or the resources or the time, frankly, to be able to devote the kind of investment, both monetarily and time-wise and skill-wise, to this endeavor. But that being said, I think I've been trying a lot of really interesting things this semester, and I've kind of viewed this as sort of an opportunity to be creative with the way that we teach. One of the things that I think has really been successful is I've been teaching in groups over Zoom, and this has really kind of created a better sense of community. I have a very large studio. I have 26 tuba and euphonium majors at App.
Whoa.
So I kind of did this as an experiment, but also because it takes a lot of time to teach that many people. So I divided them all up into groups, and we have these groups of 3 or 4 people at a time. And we're having these really, really interesting lessons over Zoom on specific topics, and my students are performing for each other. And it's not like your typical class, where you'd perform in person, but it's also really, really appreciated by the students because they at least get some interaction, with each other. And I think that's something that's been really successful. Another thing that I've been experimenting with is, because we can't do live concerts at App right now, unfortunately. And so this semester we're putting on our very first virtual tuba and euphonium day. And so we're bringing in guest artists from across the world, which is kind of a neat thing that we can do across Zoom, because Boone is not terribly accessible otherwise. So, we're bringing in guest artists from Switzerland and from Norway, and someone from Houston, and they're all giving master classes to my students. And this is an opportunity that our students will never have to really perform with somebody from, Switzerland or things like that. And so I think it's really kind of expanded the way that we think about music. It's created this very global connection. Granted, the technology it stinks. I fully acknowledge that. But even so, I think it's still really rewarding for my students to be able to participate in those discussions, those interactions. And I know it is one positive aspect that comes out of this. It's a challenge for sure, but it is one positive thing. As a musician too, I've done a lot of these collaborations. I'm sure you saw the one with the Asheville Symphony. My dog was in it, fun story. But
nice.
Yeah, my dog's been in a lot of the videos that I've recorded. She's more popular than me. It's fine. But I've done a lot of collaborations with people across the world, and it's been really cool. I've done ones with people in Portugal and Norway and Australia and I don't even know where else. And that sort of opportunity is, yes, it's always been possible, but I think, like Mark said, we've advanced 10 years in the course of, has it been 6 months? I don't know. However, whenever this started. And that's really neat. So that is something that I hope sticks around. once we can all, safely convene again.
I think that there's been this opportunity to, yeah, like you said, be able to, because everybody's been forced to do it, right? And so there's maybe not as much resistance to this concept of the fact that the positive to the virtual, the positive to the technology is that we can break down those physical barriers. And with music, that opens the doors for some really neat ideas and collaborations. And like you said about your dog, I'm seeing this a lot with musicians. You're now getting to see this behind the scenes, look at them, and kind of see more of the person behind the person that you just see on stage.
For sure. And I think what's really neat is that everyone is kind of like, yeah, let's try this. Everyone's kind of in the same boat of being like, oh, maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. But if ever there was a time to try and experiment and be creative, I mean, now is it. And it's really neat to see everybody's response. So many professionals have made themselves so available to my students and everybody else too for teaching, for discussions, for performances and stuff like that. And so there's this collective attitude of like, let's be creative, let's try something new. Maybe it won't work. Maybe
but hey,
but so some really interesting ideas have come out, from this, and I think that's really exciting. And I do try and emphasize it to my students all the time. Is like, if ever there's a time for creativity, it's really now. So.
Right. Awesome. I like that statement because I think a lot of people are feeling the opposite. But that is such a positive outlook on that. So, we've got Darko joining us from the airport. Say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Darko. How are you?
Great. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the mute function here so you don't hear the background music and boarding gate 4 onwards. So I'm just going to hang out here and chip in like a caller commentator when the time is appropriate. If that sounds good to you guys.
Donnie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Donnie, you're a member of the Army Band. And one of the things I'd be interested in knowing is how has this impacted the way that the musical unit in the band is functioning?
Well, basically the answer to that is if you don't live within 50 miles of where the mission is, you don't get to do it.
And what is the mission?
Whatever is required of you to do. That's our general term for funerals, for change of command performances, things, anything that you would have one or more members of the band go to do.
So for those of us in the civilian world, a mission is a gig.
Yeah. And the paperwork involved and doing day-to-day maintenance around the unit also it's just military speak for the thing you have to do.
Gotcha.
They've been inventing a lot of work for us this year as well. So the Army has been good to its musicians.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, I'm going to open the floor to you now and ask some burning brass sections, very specific questions about to the players. Again, I'm not a brass player, so I'm interested to hear what you all have to say about being in that section and the challenges and why you ended up becoming a brass player. So yeah, go ahead, Mark, take the floor.
Well, first I want to at least address the question that Carol McCullum has asked, and this is going to Beth. Is it unusual for a woman to be a principal tuba player? Beth, let me turn it over to you for that.
Hi, Carol. So I think to answer your question, I think the answer is yes, but I think that's the answer. Yes, but I think things are changing. When I first started the tuba a few years ago, it was really rare, and I've been the only female in a number of situations, the only female tuba player in a number of situations. But, as times are changing, and I think as, you know, I've had wonderful role models who are female tuba players. There are several female tuba players in orchestras throughout the U.S. Most notably, there's a woman who plays in the Philadelphia Orchestra. And she's kind of a trailblazer for the rest of us in more than just her gender, for sure. And I think, you know, as she won her job, and as there are more of us kind of picking up the instrument, I really find that it's becoming more common, you know, and I think that, you know, in 10 years it's going to look totally different than now. And I can tell you as a teacher too, of my 26 students right now, I think maybe 5 or 6 of them, I would have to count. That's a good thing. I would have to count at least, are female. And so that, I think, kind of just reflects the idea that it's becoming less unusual and it's becoming more common. And I just attribute that to having like really good role models in the field. So yes, but.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
I have to chime in briefly that last year, my principal tubist in Tallahassee was also female. So I had all of 100% representation in all my orchestras.
Hey, was that Rachel?
There you go. Yeah, Rachel, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's moved now. She's doing other things. She moved to Seattle. But yeah, the world is definitely changing from that perspective.
Absolutely. There was a time where, for some reason, there were gender assigned roles in brass sections, and people who had those ideas were just wrong. and you can hear it by listening, right? I mean, it either it's great or it's not. And in the case of players like Beth, it's brilliant. I mean, the playing has nothing to do with anything other than just being a great musician. And we're so fortunate to have Beth as the principal tuba. I mean, she is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I will chime in on this. This is, of course, one of the great things about doing fully blind auditions. And
Yeah.
Beth has played with the orchestra many years, but the official audition for her position was last summer. We had quite a number of tuba players, and we found out afterwards there were some really big and important regional names that were on the list. And I can, Mark can corroborate this, as a committee in the back, it was no questions asked who was top player behind that screen. And we removed the screen and it was you. And so it was like phenomenal.
Yes,
It was
absolutely.
so beautiful to have that experience. And I think, you know, there's a lot of issues worldwide with equality, but I think the orchestral audition process, I just come back to it, I think it's one of the fairest things we have. It's, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's all about equality.
I agree.
Yeah, I think the orchestral audition process is really unique. I mean, for just being a totally even playing field, you know, that's a very cool feeling.
I have a question here from Nancy Schumann, and we can all bounce this around just a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And it says, do you use bell covers for you and your students when playing? Do they have an ASO logo? And so I have a mixed answer for you from my station, which is that the University of Delaware has very strict guidelines for COVID compliance. We have to be 20 feet apart in order to play, unless you're a string player or a pianist, right? I mean, they're not, they're able to be masked. But if you have to play in a non-masked situation, then 20 feet apart. And if you're in an ensemble, bell covers are required. If you're in a lesson, it is up to the student and the teacher. And although they do not have ASO logos, I love the idea of having ASO logos. So I'm not sure who to direct that to, but I think that definitely should go up the line in the office because I think it's a brilliant.
Taking note.
Yeah.
I think the Asheville Symphony is like, for the budget, we're like, we have cool logos for all kinds of things. So yeah, I think we should work on that, Amanda.
All right.
How are things for the others on the panel as far as playing in ensembles? Are you socially distanced by kilometers, or is it like, you know, the hills are alive with the sound of music kind of thing? Everybody picks a little hill and then trading back and forth. What's the situation as far as safety in your performance spaces?
I play outdoors a lot. I'm into it. It's I don't know how much longer that's gonna last, but it's,
Okay, here's a funny question. How cold can it be that you can still perform outside?
oh my gosh, mouthpieces. They get so gosh darn cold.
Yes,
Like,
Yeah.
yes, they do.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not a fan of that, you know. Yeah, no, it's not a thing. But it's very nice to play outside. I mean, when possible. And I love, you know, what the ASO is doing with sending musicians out to play outdoors. I think that's awesome. You know, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this how our instruments were developed, like originally? Like, weren't you
You know,
bugles or something like that?
you know that the first trumpet ensemble in history that we know of was recorded as a weapon of mass destruction. It
Oh
was,
no.
there's a story in the Old Testament of
Oh,
Judaic tradition that a bunch of guys with trumpets marched around the walls of a city, Jericho at the time, and they blew the trumpets and the walls came down. So our instruments, I believe, were weapons or demolition tools when they first came out. So they had an outdoor voice completely. And so a lot has changed. Obviously, we bring our
Has it, Mark? Has it
well,
really changed?
we try to
You know?
contextualize what we do. We try to bring our manners and our sense of context to play. But you know what Strauss said: never look at the trombones; it only encourages them. And so, if you just don't look back and encourage us, we'll keep it reeled in for you. How's that?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, it's certainly the use of course, it's outdoor instrument. Horns, of course, had their shining moment as hunting instruments. And I will make a mention though that if you watch all those Cecil DeMille movies from the 50s, the Roman brass bands didn't sound exactly like that. you know, I'm sure they were good brass ensembles, but that's all Miklos Rocha, a great composer who worked in those movies and kind of created a quote unquote Roman sound using
Yeah,
brass ensembles.
the soundtrack to Ben-Hur is quite a stretch.
Donnie, I want to ask you a question back now that he just brought that up about trumpets. I want to hear a little bit more about being in the military band, because I think that our audience might find that really interesting to kind of hear about what is the difference between playing with a professional orchestra and playing with a military band. Are there differences? Do you prefer one or the other? Yeah, just some thoughts on that.
I would say that the biggest difference between playing in a military band and an orchestra is if I talk back to a conductor, there's no way I can have my pay taken back from me. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding, but that never really happens unless you're being an absolute jerk. One of the things that is really the biggest difference is that a lot of what you do as a trumpet player in the Army is ceremonial music. So, before COVID, about once every week, once every 2 weeks, and I'm currently only a reservist, so it would be more frequently if I were, if and when I go active duty.
Right.
But about once every week, every 2 weeks, I'll go to a funeral home and stand around for an hour and a half and then play taps. And it's not really a musical experience, but it's a ceremonial experience. And historically speaking, that's more what trumpet was about in the first place. So that's kind of neat in terms of knowing your place in history as a musician. Partially as a not necessarily someone who's creating an artistic experience for people, but creating more of a ritual environment.
Donnie, we have a question from Hank Young on the chat regarding the instruments behind you that we see on the video there. What are they? Tell us about it.
They're all trumpets. My flugelhorn is in the shop right now, so the peg all the way on the left would be a flugelhorn, but not at the moment. So we have a B flat trumpet, a C trumpet, E flat, and piccolo. And then
have you guys talked about
there's-
about what it means, differences for the audience between B flat, C trumpets? So this is, I mean, I can explain it, but since you guys actually live it and breathe it, you want to tell the audience what the difference is, how this came about, the history of these terms, because, you know, in the program we'll see, like, you know, it was written for trumpet in B flat, it was written for trumpet in F, etc. What does that mean?
Well, Mark, since I was already talking, do you mind if I go first?
I was going to recommend it because I remember your comprehensive exam from your doctoral studies, and you gave a great answer for this. So I was going to just hand it right back to you, man. You're ready for this.
Great.
Well, the short answer is that they're different lengths, and the change in length of instruments came from composers writing higher and higher parts, and for trumpet specifically, the sound when the instrument is very long, as you might hear with the French horn, when it goes really high on the instrument relative to the length, it gets a really veiled, complex sound that is very beautiful, obviously, because we all love French horn, but it's not quite as piercing, for technical reasons that I don't really want to get into right now, because that could be a whole 30-minute discussion.
Yeah. I suppose the thing is like the longer the instrument, the deeper the sound, the shorter it is, the higher the sound. So what is
yes.
the shortest length of tube that's behind you currently?
The piccolo trumpet.
Because remember, for the audience at home, they're all wound, right? So I mean, they're not, the sizes are not relative to the trumpets you see behind Donnie, but it's the winding of the whole tube that counts the total length. So the piccolo trumpet is what?
4 feet, I believe. Is it 2 feet?
4 feet. Beth. So I want to ask Beth, what is the tuba if we were to unwind it?
I think so. Tubas come in keys as well, and I can talk more later if anyone even remotely cares. But the largest tuba that we have, I think if I said 18 feet, that would be like about right.
18 feet. It's basically an organ pipe wound into an instrument you hold in your lap.
How much does it weigh?
Yeah.
De facto.
How much does it weigh?
Yeah. How do they?
I don't know. I want to say, so if I fly,
Need some guns to pick that thing up.
What are you saying? If I fly with my instrument, like I can just like under 1 pound like avoid the surplus weight charges. So 50 pounds. So like in
So 49 pounds with a case.
Yeah, and that's like if I
wow.
like thing out. And that's
okay.
like I said,
so what's the lowest note this instrument produces?
What's the lowest note?
The lowest pitch you produce. Yeah.
So if I look at a piano and I go like to the lowest note on the piano, right?
Yeah.
I can probably go like 2 or 3 at least below that.
Wow. And Donnie, the piccolo trumpet, effectively, how high are we going? Like this is now on the opposite spectrum of the keyboard, if you can imagine.
Well, first of all, I misspoke. The B flat trumpet is 4 feet. The piccolo B flat trumpet is 2 feet. My mistake.
So even smaller.
Feel free to fire me.
Even smaller.
So that's actually
that's not part of the gig.
Well, how high can it go is kind of a loaded question, right? For trumpet players,
depends on the player, of course.
Yeah.
Theoretically,
the highest that you'll typically see written in a piece of music is an F above the staff. So the first line, like the top line.
So basically, it's my entire wingspan. Here's the tuba, and here maybe I can reach the F of the piccolo trumpet.
That's right.
It's a lot of notes in between you can cover.
And in the case of pieces like Brandenburg, you extend that by another minor third, and you have written A's.
Yeah. I heard there's a thing with trumpet players having contracts not to play Brandenburg too. This is a piece by Bach, everybody, by the way, which is notorious for high trumpet.
Yeah, usually my favorite answer to how, well, how high will a piccolo go? That usually depends on whether you're throwing it or using a slingshot.
Parts.
Says Jeremy.
Love it.
We got another
Okay,
question.
speaking of- Oh.
Go ahead, Darko.
No, go ahead. Let's
I
go
was
to
gonna
the
say,
other questions.
we got another question in the line here from John Contrin, specifically talking about Music Man. We cannot have a brass section conversation and not talk about Music Man, right? But he said, seriously, anyone on the panel a fan of music written by Tyler Grant or Brian Balmages?
Yeah.
Or Stephen Reinick? Am I pronouncing that correct?
Reinecke.
Reinecke.
Yeah, let me take this just for a second and then pass it around to anybody that wants it. So first of all, John, the uniquely Romanesque sound of the soundtrack of Ben-Hur is incredibly beefy. So I'm going to invite you to join me in listening to it sometime. It is unbelievably beefy in the brass in its own unique way. I've played this film score a couple times and I felt like I needed to be carried away on a stretcher. So it's really something. But you're right. Music Man's brilliant. You know, we're talking obviously the area of musical theater, and then it made it to the silver screen. Absolutely brilliant music. Now, I have not played Grant or Reinecke, but I have played stuff by Brian Balmages, and I love his music. It's absolutely engaging and uses an interesting modern harmonic vocabulary, as well as interesting uses of rhythm and meter. So I absolutely love his stuff. Thank you for mentioning it, because it's not something that everybody's necessarily familiar with. And again, want to invite everybody that's on with us today to run to YouTube, Don't Walk, Run, and listen to some of this amazing music. Who's next? Who's got something on this?
Well, I think speaking of amazing music, we should talk to Jeremy about the Music Man and how amazing it is because of 76 trombones.
Ah,
All right,
well done.
confession.
Nice pass there.
I've never seen The Music Man,
What?
which is terrible. I know, Mark.
It's okay. It's okay,
never seen
Jeremy.
it.
You need to run. You need to walk, not run to watch that.
I know. 76 trombones. I've done plenty of like arrangements of 76 trombones, but never seen it, unfortunately. I know it's on the to-do list. That, and I've been told 1,000 times I still need to see Blazing Saddles. I haven't seen Blazing Saddles yet.
How many trombones in your arrangement?
Oh, wow.
76?
Almost.
Okay, good.
We did it for a trombone day at the University of Texas when I was getting my doctorate. And gosh, what was that arranger's name? I think it was Gary Schlichta, who's in Austin, did an arrangement of it. And I mean, it was, the full stage, the big stage, Bates Hall that they had at University of Texas was full of trombones. I never did see the score of how many parts there were, but there were at least 20 parts.
Again,
so,
instruments of mass destruction. Instruments of mass destruction.
Yes. They say that the definition of a gentleman is a man who knows to score, who knows how to score for 76 trombones, but doesn't.
Oh.
Burn.
Now
I need to see it though. I know
That's your homework, Jeremy. You got to go watch it and tell us what you thought.
I think what you should do, Jeremy, since I've seen your stuff on Instagram, you put a lot of music videos up. You should use what's the app that you can play with yourself?
Oh, acapella.
And do 76 acapella. Use acapella and make 76 trombones for yourself. That would be a hit.
In my free time.
You'll finally, it's viral in the brass word. 10 views.
All right.
I played the Music Man a couple years ago with the Ohio Light Opera, and I just want to correct, the trumpet part is way better. I'm just saying. And there's only 2 trombones, so outnumbered.
There it is.
All right, Darko, you want
Bethany, we have a question for you. In the meantime, John wants to know, have you ever been to a tuba fest?
All the time. Yeah,
host
tuba
one?
player. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, we're hosting a virtual tuba and euphonium festival here at App with my students, and it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, tuba players as a rule like to get together for various reasons. And we have tuba conferences every, I don't know, couple of years.
So it's the
we have
International Tuba Society, or
Yeah, well, it used to be the tuba. What it used to be, Tubas Universal Brotherhood. I don't know, but they changed it. So now it's a little bit more gender non-conforming. It's the International Tuba and Euphonium Association, and they host these ginormous conferences every couple of years. The last one happened to be the University of Iowa, I think, and like literally like 600 or 700 tuba players get together for these things and just like go bananas. Because the thing is, like, I think playing in an orchestra as a tuba player, it gets a little lonely. I'm not around other tuba players very often. So when we do get together, we get really into talking about the tuba, shall we say. Yeah.
excited? Yeah, we'll use like positive language
Yeah,
here.
no, it's totally positive. It's totally positive.
Yeah,
Like no one else in the orchestra wants to hear me talk about like tuba mouthpieces, for example.
Okay, I do have a question, kind of, which it aligns a little bit with this. But have we breached the subject of beer yet on this call?
No.
No.
Everybody's laughing. No. Okay, so for the audience at home, the consumption of certain beverages increases as you approach the back of the orchestra, and the brass section is kind of notorious for consuming of Asheville's favorite beverage. And at least from what I've noticed, it kind of increases the lower the register is. Is this fair to say? Would you like to comment on this? I'd like to hear everybody's opinion.
My experience.
I've heard this too.
No, my experience has certainly proven you to be correct, Darko. I certainly am a fan of a tasty, refreshing malt beverage, and many of my tuba playing friends and trombone playing friends, I think the further down the score you go, the more beer it takes to live there.
Watch it.
We're not accusing Bethany of being a lush, just to be clear.
No, however, in Asheville, obviously that's not the case.
Yes.
I think that probably in Asheville, it's clear that Jeremy Marks consumes the most beer because he's the bass trombonist.
I just want to refer back to a question. I don't even know that it is a question that John Condren posted in the Q&A of, can we host a tuba fest in Asheville? And I wrote, yes, please, in all caps. And I would just like to bring that to your attention.
Okay.
Well, I think, we have good relationship with like Burial. Why not have an Octuba Fest?
Well, Octuba Fest is a real thing, Darko.
I know it is. I know. There was one in Bloomington way back 20 years ago.
Yeah, and everyone likes a good polka.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a really good idea.
And Darko,
76 tubas.
And Darko, as per your earlier comment, make sure they brew a little extra beverage.
Correct. Well, and it's all good jostling and fun. To be honest, personally, you guys know I'm from Serbia. Serbia has a huge brass band tradition led by the Romani people, and it's not necessarily tubas, but it's like baritones and variations of that are just beloved, and it makes for great dance music. Frankly, it's not polka; it's a little bit more Eastern sounding, but literally in the region where my family comes from, there's a festival that in normal times draws 500,000 people from the globe to listen to brass band music, and it's crazy and wild. But so I would love to see an Octuba Fest in Asheville, and I seriously think we should explore the idea, given our relationship with breweries, and it would be a great way to have some exposure in the community, which is really breaks the barrier of what we are. I mean, people, if anything, these panels we've been holding, you see that we have personalities. We like to joke. We like to have fun. We have interests outside of just being on the stage and performing classical music, which is our passion. It's what we do really well. But like, we are more than that. And it's always great to share that as an organization. So I will personally look into that.
I will say too, I once took my students, we did a lunch series. I have a tuba ensemble at App, which is, yes, it's a real thing. And we went to, I don't know if it was a retirement home or something, but we did a polka series, and so many, this is when, you know, people could like interact, you know, back in the day. And so many people there were so excited. They taught my students how to polka, and my students thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And so we had this massive polka party with this retirement home, and I've never seen people have such a good time. My students thought it was great, and they all can polka now, so.
I just see an opportunity, you know, John again chimes in and says the record is 8:35 in Kansas City. I know if we can get like 900 tuba players, we can just line them up along the Blue Ridge Parkway, you know, and it could be a drive-by tuba celebration. I don't know. There's something like there's a Guinness World Record waiting to be broken.
Mark, I feel like there's a joke coming. Where is that?
Oh, I was just going to say that's absolutely terrifying. However, what I think is I have this incredible image in my mind of 900 tuba players dressed in hazmat suits standing along the parkway while people drive
post-COVID,
by.
Post-COVID.
Oh, post-COVID. Okay, well, you know, I'm trying to contextualize this conversation.
It's true. That's like our big mission. Always be relevant.
Well, Darko, before we finish this morning, oh, where'd he go? There he is. We have to pose the question that you posed every week that has been, I think, one of the favorite questions for our audience, and that is about the pieces of music.
Yep. Yeah, so every week we kind of finish up with going around the panel and asking, you know, what's a piece that we haven't had a chance to perform yet with the Asheville Symphony, but you would love to see performed? And we know what the answers have been the previous weeks, and I expect we'll get something similar. So let's see, brass player's perspective, what do you want to play that we haven't done yet?
I'll go first. So one that's always been on my bucket list has been Alpine Symphony. I love the Alpine Symphony, and I hope one day in my career I get the
Alpine Symphony. Richard Strauss, one of his huge works, kit and caboodle, like Wind Machine, billion players. Like I don't know if we could fit it on stage, to be honest, but that's a powerful work to hear live. My God.
Yeah. And if it wasn't that, Mahler 2.
Absolutely. Mahler 2.
We definitely got that one before.
Okay. I think we've had that in every panel so far. So yes. Okay, who's next?
I was gonna say Ein Heldenleben, which is another of the tone poems of Richard Strauss. But I like Alpine as well. That's fantastic. I'll go with Jeremy on that, or happily do Heldenleben. But if we're talking complete, doesn't matter about feasibility, then maybe Mahler 7, which I think is something that we haven't played in Asheville, maybe in the entire
or anywhere.
Yeah, well,
it's a hard piece to put together. Mahler 7 is just as tricky as the other ones, but you know, you have the other pieces are a little bit easier economically. People are more familiar with them, so they get programmed more often. Yeah.
That's why I threw the
Mahler 7 gets lost. Yeah. What's the instrument that opens Mahler 7? It's a kind of like euphonium. Baritone. It's well, it wasn't euphonium originally. What was it originally?
It was the tenor tuba.
Tenor tuba. Okay.
Yeah. It's played by euphonium now. Yeah.
Right. It's really cool opening.
Euphonium.
What, Mark?
I wanted you to tell us all what's the difference between a tenor tuba and a euphonium.
Oh, I thought you were making a good joke again.
No. Well, I mean, I could always go there. But,
yeah. You know, the tenor tuba is you know, I don't know. It comes down to what key our instruments are in. The tenor tuba functionally doesn't really exist anymore. And so it is, you know, we say that the tuba is in the key of B flat, which means like the open note is a B flat. And the tenor tuba is basically an instrument that existed mostly in Europe in like the late 19th century that was exactly 1 octave above it. It's mostly in France from what I know. Nowadays it's played by euphonium though, is what it typically is.
Gotcha.
So since we're on the subject and you have the mic, what's a work you'd like to see performed?
I don't know. As much as I like playing brass instruments, I don't like that super loud, like the big, I don't know, you know? I don't know. I really like string chamber music, but that's probably not good for my employment outlook. Like Okay, if I had to say something that involved the tuba, I don't know. Nielsen 4 was kind of fun.
Nielsen 4,
Yeah,
the Inextinguishable.
Yeah.
It's one of those pieces that I think that's a piece that really benefits from hearing it live. I think I remember hearing it for the first time. I remember not being impressed by any one little short section, but as a whole, it is so much more than the sum of its parts. It just sweeps you along and is like, wow, what did I just experience at the end? I was left breathless after hearing the performance the first time.
It
Yet
totally
in the
does.
performance itself, it didn't have that feeling, okay, here's a big climax and now we've arrived and now there's a denouement. It's really kind of an organic writing in that piece that, I don't know, just like it's the whole sweep which makes it so beautiful. Cool selection, I like that.
Yeah, I think like there's something about Scandinavian music that's like super expansive, which you're right, probably doesn't translate well to actually performing, but
it's all the
it
snow.
feels cool to play it. It feels really cool to play it. So go on.
Cool. Who's next? Donnie.
Well, as a trumpet player and a jerk, I want to hear the Asheville Symphony play Brandenburg too. But for something I could participate in, I'd love to do the Janacek Sinfonietta. And if it were ever possible to get in a space with a really huge organ, the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony.
The Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. That's the reason I conduct today. That was the first piece I fell in love with and wanted to conduct and failed miserably at it. But I mean, it got me going on the path of no return. Yes, that's an awesome piece. Very hard to do well. Very hard piece. It's hard to make it convincing. It's really difficult to line up, especially the first movement. And as you said, you need an incredible organ and a large enough space to do it, to really do it justice. But on the other hand, sorry, you said Brandenburg 2 is all I remember, but Janacek Sinfonietta. So this is how many brass players are in the Sinfonietta?
Far too
There's
many.
a bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
but there are 12
a large arc. Right. Yeah, it basically fills the stage, and then there's offstage stuff as well. And it's a powerful piece. That's why it's like a great university piece where you have a great program and you can involve everybody from the studios, but it's hard to justify economically in real life when you have to hire so many extras for just one piece that does not dominate the entire concert. But yeah, beautiful work. Any parting thoughts from our panel?
This was a lot of fun, and I'm so glad to see everybody again.
Yeah,
it's nice to see everybody. It's been a long time.
This is great. We miss you, and we miss playing music for you, and we certainly miss playing music together. So that
Here.
And that's what I have to say. And I am unfortunately going to have to bounce out immediately because I am required to be at a meeting with my boss. So,
Well, thanks for coming, Mark.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. Ciao.
Thank you, Mark. Be well. Guys, I miss you very much. I can't wait for the moment for us to come back together and play together as a full orchestra, and that absolutely means full orchestra. So everybody in the brass participating, and it'll take a bit of time before we can get to the point where we can do it safely, but I'm confident it will happen, and I can't wait for that moment because it will be so special. And we'll make sure to do something absolutely amazing. I don't know, you probably didn't touch on the function of the brass, but I always think of the brass section as the section that takes the excitement of what the rest of the orchestra does and just bumps it up to a 10. It's like Emerald putting the extra spice on top. It's something really incredible. And those climaxes when everybody is playing together in the orchestra are just unbelievable. So speaking for somebody who's had the fortune to make some music, but mostly with small ensembles, I've really missed that. And I can't wait to welcome you back to the stage. And on that note, I don't know, Amanda, if you'd like to say anything else, but I'd just like to thank our audience for being here with us again in such large numbers. Hope you enjoyed the coffees, and look forward to seeing you next time at ASO at Home.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining. One last quick thing, because Sandra has posed this question in the chat. For those of you that are wondering, yes, you can watch all of our previous ASO at Homes. Just visit our website at ashevillesymphony.org. About Us / ASO at Home. I've put the link into the chat box. You can click on that and then click on any of the past events that we've had, past dates, and that will take you to the recording. If you would like to find out about any further information or recordings from any of the musicians that you've seen today or previously, please feel free to reach out and email me at ajvollrath@ashevillesymphony.org. I'll put that in the chat now, and I will connect you to any of our musicians, anything that you're looking for. We miss you all a ton, as Darko said, and many musicians. We can't wait to perform for you live, but we are still here and we want to connect with you, and more than ever, I know our musicians want to connect with you. So thanks again, and y'all have a great morning. Bye.